Hello friends, welcome back to the next session on operations planning, scheduling and control. Now let's begin with our learning. In this particular session, we will be able to understand and deal with the concepts of generating the work progress reports for management information. The learning objectives. At the end of this particular session, the learners will be able to understand how do we generate or how do we create various progress reports for the management information, and how do we create or generate and prepare the various progress reports with the help of management information system. So now let's understand what do we mean by the progress report in the management information system. Now, when in a particular organization, when several number of series of activities are being undertaken, it is essentially important and required to see that those whatever activities that are being undertaken, the progress report of such activities needs to be completed or needs to be submitted to the management. And as a part of a management, it is essentially required to see that whatever reports that we are preparing, it should be done in a proper way, it should be done in an organized way, and it should provide us certain specific data which is self-explanatory as to what are the various results or outputs that have been generated or that has been created. So management reporting is a type of corporate information which passes on from one department to another department, from one level to another level. This particular type of reports, that is the work progress report that we are preparing, these particular reports are being usually or in majority of the cases moving from the middle level management to the top level management. The report that have been prepared from the low level management, that is the operations department, stores department, are then forwarded to the middle level management, and again they have or they prepare the reports in a sophisticated and an organized way, and such reports are being forwarded to the respective management. The reports where that is needed to be prepared, always those particular reports are in a computerized format, and when we have a proper system or mechanism into existence, the particular reports are being prepared in a very effective way. The another concept that can be used is the management information system. So based on the usage of management information system, all the reports can be completed in a better effective way, and those particular reports can be done in a sequential point of time. So in this particular case, a certain background and context for the management report can also be undertaken, and accordingly a certain series of activities can be prepared, and accordingly the various 18 critical best practices can be implemented in the business organization in order to see that how those reports are being done in an effective concern. So whenever a management report is being prepared or a work progress order report is being prepared, it should answer the following questions. That is, the questions may be related to the business organization or with respect to the productivity, products or pricing. Am I pricing my jobs right? So that is the first question that needs to be answered, is whether the pricing that has been set for a particular price or a certain product or whatever the price that we are spending, whether the job that has been undertaken is perfect or apt or right or wrong, or what is the procedure that needs to be undertaken for the business organization. Who are my most profitable clients? So assessment of the client with respect to their profitability is essentially required, and based on the assessment of profitability, one has to come to the conclusion that which client is more profitable and which client is not profitable or average profitable. So assessment of profitability of a certain client is essentially required, and based on those considerations, the assessment needs to be undertaken. Do I have enough cash to make the payroll? So availability of number of cash in the business organization and free flow of movement of goods and services in the business organization is essentially required, and accordingly assessment of cash needs to be undertaken by the business manager. Where should I spend my marketing dollars? So whatever amount of extra money that is available, either in terms of dollars or a certain amount of money that is available with the business concern, that identification or consideration needs to be undertaken, and hence one needs to come to a conclusion about how do I spend a certain amount of money. That is, while preparing a certain amount of report, if a certain amount of money is been left over as a part of a residual income, then that particular residual income needs to be disposed of as and when it is been required. So this particular residual income, it should be adjusted against certain account, on how do we utilize this particular account for the benefit of the organization or for increasing the productivity of the business concern. Then the last question that one has to answer is, should I hire more employees, or whether there is more requirement of labor or the people workforce in the organization. So how do we pay them? What should be the pay salary or the structure that needs to be decided, and how do we identify or hire the more employees? So if an activity needs to be completed, or if there is a certain shortfall of a certain amount of labor, then how those organization of labor activities can be undertaken and more number of peoples can be hired in the organization. Now let's understand what are the various essential points for reporting or writing a considerations report. The first point is setting the strategic goals and objectives. So initially, whatever strategic goals and objectives are there with this organization, all those strategic goals and objectives needs to be identified, and they should be set in a very effective way. Picking the right KPI for your audience, that is key performance indicators. So what are the key performance indicators of the business organization? How one needs to achieve and identify those KPIs, and selecting the right KPI for the audience, that is your customers or the clients who are the purchaser of your respective product. Another concern, your audience may be the management, your audience may be customers, your audience may be government or the general public, and so on. Taking the customer feedback into consideration in your report. So accordingly, whatever customer feedback that is needed to be required, all those feedback needs to be undertaken, and hence for those consideration, the feedback from the customer is essentially required. And after getting the feedback from the customer, the report needs to be prepared, and the incorporation of those particular feedback needs to be done in the academic report or the annual report that has been prepared. So that the mentioning of the report, feedback of the customers also forms the part of the consideration that can be undertaken in the report writing. Telling a story with your data. So whatever data that has been collected and whatever reports that have been prepared based on those particular data or the report, we must tell a story about how the organization or the company is been flourishing or it has been performing. So conduction of various activities, series or completion of those particular activities needs to be identified, and then mentioning of all those data is essentially required. Making the report visually pleasing through a certain amount of focus. So whatever report that we are preparing, one should always try to see that whatever report that is being prepared is always visually prepared. It has a certain consideration as to amount of goods, services that have been depicted, certain amount of certain usage of diagrams, flowcharts, pie charts, and so on. And accordingly, it should be always pleasing and visually appealing, making your report very clear. So whatever language that is being used in a report that you are preparing, it should be quite simple, and accordingly there should not be any confusion, ambiguity, or doubtful concern in the report preparation. Now let's understand what are the various essential points for report writing consideration. That is, preparing a digital report. Usually it is been preferred that whatever report that we are preparing should be prepared in a digital way, which can be accessed at every place or any point of time. Striking a balance between your data visualization. So whatever data that has been used in the report should be visualized with respect to the various diagrams, flowcharts, pie charts that have been used, and the bar diagrams. Making your report scannable and drillable. So whatever report that we are preparing, it should be available in a scannable nature, that is, it can be scanned in a very effective concern, and it should be also be available as a part of a drilling nature, that is, it can be gone through in a depth or in a particular detailed scenario. Delivering the real-time data that aligns with your objectives. So it should also be able to understand and deliver the real-time data which has been matching with the current data or the past or the historical data. Trying the both concern, that is the predictive analysis and the artificial intelligence technology. So both the technique needs to be applied and needs to be used in the business organization. And lastly, keeping the dashboards actionable, that is updated as to improve the consistency in the business organization. The another consideration or the essential points that one needs to consider is developing the reports collaboratively. So whatever report that have been prepared in a business organization of certain concern, they should be collaborated in a very effective way. That is a combination of the Word, Excel, and a PowerPoint presentation should be used. Accordingly, the reports must be collaborative. Collaboration of report with respect to different departments, with respect to different strategies, the goals and the objectives of the organization, and so on. Collaboration on the remote basis if it is been required. So based on the remote basis here, that is the smaller consideration or the larger consideration for a village, for a particular city, or for a particular region, or for a particular nation and a country, the remote basis report can also be prepared. Creating a sense of cohesion and consistency. So whatever cohesion or consistency that has been there in the report should be tried to see that it has been identified, and it does not create any confusion in the minds of the management. Compartmentalize your data very effectively. So accordingly, proper compartments and series of departments should be prepared, and the report must be very clear, definite, and specific. Creating a scannable timeline. So a proper specific timeline should be provided in which the specific report can be prepared and can be completed within the specified time period. Exploring the self-service analytics tools. So whatever analytics tool that needs to be implemented, all those tools needs to be analyzed, and accordingly the self-service activity needs to be implemented. And lastly, encouraging a data-driven culture. So whatever report that we are preparing, it should be based on the data that we have collected, and this particular data should be always authenticated and verified by the different peoples or the management concerns. So in this case, what do we understand is mostly 78% of the business senior leaders are referring the different types of report that have been prepared in the business organization. And it is a culture of a particular firm or a particular business to prepare the data, which is always to prepare a report which is data driven, and it acts as a reporting concern or act as a guidance for the managers to identify whether the leverage of the firm is either increasing or whether it is decreasing. So organizational benefits or the effort that have been implemented for by a firm and organization try to identify whether what is the profit that is being generated in the business organization and how in the long run or in the short run the benefits can be created or it can be arised. And lastly, the valuation of data that has been done or that has been undertaken in the business organization always needs to identify that whether it is empowering all the sections or the segments of the society. That is the business organization, the manufacturing organization, the finance department, the stores department, the operations department, and so on. And hence, it makes the job easier for all the people or all the individuals. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this particular session. In this particular session, we have understood and dealt with the concept of generating the work progress reports for the management information. We have also seen how do we plan the generating of the work progress reports with the help of management information system. And and lastly, how do we implement the generating of work progress reports in the management information system as a part of a certain software. I hope you must have enjoyed the learning at this particular stage. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you.